Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise pros, Stan the Man, Paul Segreto, Badlands, baby. Franchising today, sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchise today, sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchise today, franchise today, franchising today, yeah.
Hello, everyone in the franchise world. My name is Paul Segreto, and this is Franchise Today. Today is Wednesday, May 17th, 2017, and as we always do, we'd like to give the weather forecast. Santa, it seems that we always seem to do that. We're overcast, muggy, warm. It looks like we're on the throes of summer. How are you today, Stan?
Hot and humid, Paul. You know, it's funny. When I used to do the weather forecasts in the morning once a year in Buffalo, New York, when I go to the Wing Fest, I wind up doing some live TV shots in the morning promoting the festival and the cutaways to the local market from the Today Show or Good Morning America. And I would always stand with Chesley McNeil, the weatherman, and Chesley would say, "Okay, Stan, so what's the forecast going to be for the festival?" And I'd say, "Partly hot and spicy, Chess." And here we are. Here we are, partly hot and spicy in hot, humid, hot Atlanta. Is starting to live up to its name. Summer, I think, is on our doorstep, Paul.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Stan, you know, we've come through some really great guests over the last few weeks. We had Jimmy John a month ago. It's hard to believe. David Nielsen from Guidant Financial followed up. Michael Elliott from Hammer and Nails. And then last week we had a great interview with Gary Findlay from Restoration One. And, of course, today we have Jennifer Bell Saxton with us. And next week we have Dina Dwyer-Owens, and the week after Ashley Morris from Capriati. So really a very strong lineup, a lot of attention being given to franchise today. I've been looking at some of the metrics and some of the stats coming in. And, of course, we're just gaining momentum. We're seeing a lot of traction on iTunes as well. And it looks like the next couple of months we've got some very strong guests coming up as well, Stan.
For sure, Paul. In fact, just had one come across the desk this morning that I'll call out on the front of the house. As I learn more about this gentleman, we certainly want to have a conversation with a guy named Justin Wetherill, 29-year-old CEO of You Break, I Fix. And what a great story. I started reading about him in atourfranchise.com. The guy's 29 years old, and in 2009 or 10, when we were all on the heels of our feet from the recession, he broke an iPhone or he broke a smartphone and figured out how to fix it himself, and then started thinking about fixing them for others and put up ads on online to try to attract people who may need his kind of services. And 8 or so years later, 7 or so years later, he's a 300-plus franchise operation. Can't believe the growth that has been experienced by this young entrepreneur. So I am certainly looking forward to securing a date with Justin for some time this summer. He's got a story to tell about sustainable growth and sensible franchising, for sure. And as you called out last week's guest, Gary Findlay, I kind of noted this morning in the IFA Smart Brief, we talked a little bit about it with Gary, that he was so excited about just signing his first female entrepreneur. And IFA's Smart Brief talks about it this week. Her name is Beth Hendricks, and she's a 27-year-old career in the tech industry and is now the first female franchisee for Restoration One. Congratulations to her, probably a long overdue milestone for Restoration One. But, hey, she's opened the door, and let's see how she does and who else follows her, Paul. Also, a great story in atourfranchise.com about a former New York police detective who has become a pillar-to-post franchisee after he retired. And we sometimes don't think about some of those common denominators that are in our skill sets that would be applicable to another business. But, he talked about his observation skills from years in law enforcement And who better than somebody who's a former detective to go and sniff around houses and figure out what needs to be fixed before someone buys it. What a great connection. Never would have put those dots together, but when you read about it, it makes nothing but sense. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree, without a doubt. We also have IFE coming up, just a month away, 4 weeks from today. We'll be flying into New York. Show starts 4 weeks from tomorrow. Should be an exciting event.
It sure will. I'm thinking this year is going to be the biggest in quite some time. And Paul, I would be remiss if I didn't call this out as well as part of front of the house today, because I've already talked about Partly Hot and Spicy and the Wing Fest. It came to my attention today that Wingstop has signed a major development deal for Europe with a company of all names. The company out of London is called Lemon Pepper Limited, a 100-store agreement. And these are multi-unit operators of Shake Shack, Five Guys, and other brands already in the UK. So this is a big move for Wingstop, currently at 1,031 restaurants, 83 of those abroad, in 5 countries, including Indonesia, Mexico, the Philippines, Singapore, and the UAE, and now coming soon to a place where not exactly famous for food, but Wingstop's going to fix that as it enters the UK, Paul.
I imagine it's going to be hot and spicy in UK, and I see it growing from there, without a doubt. Well, Stan, we've really got we talk about some of the guests that we've had. We talk about young entrepreneurs, and we seem to really be focusing of late on some female entrepreneurs as well. And of course, Dina Dwyer-Owens will be with us next week, and today's guest is Jennifer Bell Saxton. But also, just as a teaser to our audience, we have Gigi Butler, the founder of Gigi's Cupcakes, will be coming on in June, as well as Shane Evans from Massage Heights. So definitely want to stay tuned to Franchise Today for more updates on that. Today's guest, as quoted as saying, we are most proud of the 20,000-some parents we have helped and counting. We also volunteer in our communities to help low-income families with car seat education and installation, because every child deserves a clean, safe car seat. Jennifer, welcome to Franchise Today.
Thanks so much, guys. So happy to be here.
Happy to be here. I mean, you're on just a whirlwind tour, and I'm looking forward to diving in a little bit of your recent experience with. I'm not even gonna say it at this point. We're gonna lead into some recent awards, and I'm going to allow you to absolutely express that thunder. I don't want to steal that thunder. So why don't we start with this? Okay. Why don't you go back as far as you want and tell us about, Jennifer Bell Saxton, the person, and lead us up to where we are today.
Sure. I'll try to make it the short version, but I grew up in Austin, Texas, which is my favorite place on earth, and would love to move back there one day, but I am married to a filmmaker here in Los Angeles, so I am here for the time being in sunny SoCal, which is not a horrible place to be either. But loved growing up in Austin and really idolized Michael Dell. He was a really big entrepreneur in our community who gave back. And so many of my friends' families worked there, and they were building community centers, and he was just a really great success story. So I started in 6th grade knowing I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and started kind of pursuing opportunities, thinking originally that I would go into high tech, which was kind of the hot and sexy thing to do. I graduated in 2001 from high school and went to Duke, started out in engineering, and quickly realized I hated engineering and I wanted to switch into a business degree, but Duke is a liberal arts school, so I ended up majoring in math. Which is crazy. I'm probably the only outgoing female math major you've ever met. But it was a great experience, and went into management consulting from there, where I really got to learn a lot about business, different functions, different industries, all that jazz, and started to write my business school applications. And of course, my essays were all about how I wanted to start a business. And I, at that point in time, somehow the franchise industry had really caught my eye, and Pinkberry was really hot here in California. I mean, this was probably like 12 years ago. And I was like, man, I really wish I could franchise Pinkberry. Why isn't there Pinkberry in Texas and Chicago and everywhere else? So I really started paying attention to franchising back then. But I got to business, so I went to Kellogg at Northwestern in Chicago for 2 years, had a really amazing experience there. I always joke that if I could pay to go again, I would, because it's so much fun for 2 years. And I thought I would find a co-founder, somebody else who had a business idea that maybe needed somebody to partner with to, really get things done. And quickly realized that wasn't going to work out, and everybody was telling me to do what I was passionate about. So I did some soul searching, and I was like, I was a management consultant for the last few years, and I worked 100 hours a week, and I sure didn't have very many hobbies. So I don't know what I'm passionate about. But I realized that when I was 23, looking at our consulting firm, a lot of women were turning 30 and trying to make partner and trying to start a family all at the same time. And at one point, every single woman left the firm, and it was really shocking to me that maybe this was not a career that could be, right for me if I wanted to have work-life balance and have a family and a career. So while I was at Kellogg, I set out on this mission to find business ideas that would improve work-life balance, specifically for new moms. And I was 25, no kids, single. We started receiving Working Mother magazine to my apartment, and my roommate said, Jen, is there anything you need to tell me? Why? We're receiving motherhood magazines to the apartment. But it was great. I did a whole year of research, and then this idea that baby car seats were hard to clean and install kind of floated to the surface as an idea that nobody else was out there, doing anything about it. And every mom I talked to really hated cleaning her car seat and found it really hard to install correctly. So I recruited over 40 of my classmates through all of my different coursework. Every different class, I had a different team of people helping me write the business plan for what is now Tot Squad. And the rest is history. So I moved back to LA after graduation, found a husband, my wonderful husband, Kern, who is the yin to my yang. He is super chill to my high energy madness. And we've been married about a year and a half and recently adopted a little Bichon Frise who we rescued and is totally our baby for the time being. So that's me.
Wow. I'd have to say you're right. You have to be the most outgoing math major I have ever come across. And to that end, where does so connect the dots? I did the little tease between Jennifer Bell Saxton, Tot Squad, outgoing, talkative math major, and one of the leading design people in the world.
Who is the leading design person in the world?
Well, that's for you to tell us.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I
you
think
just spent some time in New York. Was it in New York with Tory Burch?
I was thinking
tell
you were
us about
talking
that
about
experience.
My job. Well, yes.
Okay.
Really, I was thinking different kind of design. So the really exciting news is that I was recently selected as a Tory Burch Fellow, which is a new program that Tory Burch, who's a Saxton designer, launched through her foundation, because when she started her business 15 years ago, she was tired of being the only woman in the room and the only woman featured in the newspapers as a successful female entrepreneur. And so she really wanted to support and lift up other women that are hustling and trying to grow and scale our company. And it was just the most magical week in New York City. We were treated like royalty and got to meet all of the senior management team at her company and some really, really influential people in the media world as well. I got a really lovely compliment from the editor of Marie Claire magazine, who told me that she really learned how to pitch confidently after I did my business pitch. So I was really flattered to be a part of it, and I learned so much. And really just the cohort of the 9 other, including me, fellows in the program, we are just fast friends and building a community and supporting each other, kind of with that saying, a rising tide floats all boats. And we all really want to help each other and see success for everyone.
I think you are the second, we found another common denominator here, Paul. I believe that Jennifer represents the second person, at least to my knowledge, who has a very high profile and successful franchise career following education that was geared toward engineering. And I'm calling out Aziz Hashim, who started.
That's true.
Yeah, who better than, Aziz is a perfect example of how a career in franchising came out of what was supposed to be a degree in engineering and a changing of gears in his life. So there's something to that we may want to take a closer look at, to the Daily Double right here. What do you think?
I think so.
I wondered, Jennifer, if you can tell us what, this has got absolutely nothing to do with franchising, but I remember when I first met you, I wondered, what kind of vitamins does this lady take? She has got some of the most amazing energy. It's not decaf that you're drinking in the morning. I'm for sure about that, but your energy is contagious. Has that been that way all your life, or are you just so stoked about the business that you're in?
It's so funny. So I actually don't drink coffee. My husband says I'm naturally caffeinated. So I don't know. I think I get it from my mom. We're both really high energy, talkative. It's funny, actually. My whole family, my mom, my sister have sales careers. So I think maybe there's a genetic component, but I am really passionate and excited about my business, and I think that's truly been a key asset for me in terms of securing PR, contacts, relationships, and recruiting, really, in terms of getting my team, my franchisee. But that energy, I think, sets the tone for our business and really the fun culture that we're committed to building.
Well, second to money, it's the most important thing that any franchisor can bring to the table, in my belief, and that's passion for the business and franchisees. And we'll talk more about the franchise side of the business later, but as much as anything that a brand does to attract potential franchisees, it's belief in the leadership and the confidence in the leadership and just the energy of what you emit, I believe, is probably as great an attraction to your brand as anything else could be. So you started out thinking about being the Geek Squad in your space. Tell us about the evolution of the brand and the model and how it is different than anything that's in the marketplace and how it's evolved.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'm now crystallizing at this exact moment what I would describe as kind of 3 phases of the business. So the first phase was really, me driving the van myself, cleaning car seats and strollers and, vomit and poop and all of the glorious things that come along with dirty babies. And just, me and some hourly employees launching the business here in Los Angeles and San Diego and then eventually New York City, all as corporate-owned units. And the business model being that we would drive to a different baby store every day and set up in the parking lot or on the sidewalk and do a 30 to 60-minute steam cleaning on a car seat or a stroller while mom was inside shopping. And it was great because we started to get, kind of accidentally, a lot of interest from retailers. So Whole Foods and Nordstrom are 2 examples of businesses that called us and said, hey, we want your events at our store because, as you guys know, Amazon is crushing brick and mortar retail. And I think that's particularly true for this demographic of young new moms because if you have the extra errand with a screaming infant or toddler in tow, you would rather order online if you can. So these retailers are looking for unique services and amenities to drive the foot traffic to the store. And we not only did that, but then also created a captive audience because while we had the baby seat, mom couldn't drive away with the baby. So they were literally trapped inside the store, And we did a lot of data research, analytics, et cetera, with our retailers and exit surveys to show how much value we were creating for the retailers, showing that our typical customer spent more inside the store than they did on our service. And so those mutually beneficial relationships kept growing. And I knew all along that I wanted to franchise the business. So kind of the second phase is this vision to become like the Geek Squad, and the idea that we could build an in-store service center. So much like when you go into a Best Buy and you buy your laptop, you see that Geek Squad kiosk in the corner, and they're offering you at checkout to buy the 1 or 2 year extended warranty service package. And I thought, well, people are spending upwards of $1,000 or $1,500 on their strollers these days. That's more than a laptop. And maybe they would want to buy a service package where Tot Squad could deliver everything, all those big purchases to their home, assemble the crib, put the baby gates up, put the car seat in correctly, and for the next year or two provide all of the cleaning and maintenance and tune-up services on all of their big baby gear purchases. So we've made some great traction towards that vision, and we are in contract negotiations right now with a big box baby store to build our first in-store service center kiosk this summer. So I'm looking forward to announcing that in the coming weeks. But that has really been the dream. And then kind of out of the blue, and this is what I would kind of describe as the third phase of the business, we got an incoming call from Uber. And for those of you guys who don't know, Uber recently launched a baby seat program in New York City. So you can choose Uber X or Uber Pool, or you can choose Uber Car Seat, and the driver will arrive with a baby car for you.
Amazing.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so it's a really great program, and what the challenge is that whenever a kid would throw up in the car seat, they were just throwing them away and buying an entirely new seat. So really excited. We've been cleaning seats for Uber now for 6 months, and they are excited about growing that program into other markets with us. And similarly, recently have got some interest from a rental car company who, if you guys ever rented a baby seat from a rental car company, you know they're disgusting. It's a really bad experience. A lot of people are schlepping their car seat through the airport because they don't want to rent from the car rental companies. So we potentially will be rolling out a clean and safe car seat program at up to 60 major airports in the coming months and years. So I'm really excited about kind of this B2B angle beyond just the B2C Geek Squad side of the business. I think we've got a tremendous growth opportunity working with some of these other businesses in the ride share and transportation industry.
It's not often that you see a founder with such a high energy level, very, talkative, very articulate, and also create a culture that is attractive to today's workforce. And yet, as I was doing research on Tot Squad, I was pleasantly surprised just because of the nature of the beast called the internet out here, that on Glassdoor.com is one positive employee review after another. How do you keep that up? How do you go ahead constantly and transfer your energy to them as well as the vision? Because we deal with such a finicky audience that's out there that wants it now, instant gratification, expectations very, very high. And you seem to really be at the very, very top level. So I imagine culture has to be a very strong component of your business plan.
Yeah, I think, and thank you so much. I think I've learned a lot about culture and values from one of my advisors who's going to be on your show next week, Dina Dwyer-Owens. She is an amazing leader, and she's got a great book called Values, Inc., and I encourage anyone to check it out and learn about, thinking about your values in your company. And I also recently hired an executive coach, which I can't believe I waited so long to do it because it's really been transformative for me as a leader to kind of have an outside person that I can share my struggles with and really get advice. But one of the things my executive coach helped me hone in on was that fun was such a key component to my my personality, my outlook on life, and the culture that I was building at my company. And it's hard when you're just like a really early stage struggling startup trying to raise money, and you don't have a ton of money to do a lot of team building and cultural events. So I think that from a hiring perspective, I've made lots of mistakes, and I try to pride myself on learning from other people's mistakes, reading books and getting great advice so that I don't repeat their mistakes. And one piece of advice that I had heard but stupidly ignored was hire slow, fire fast. And I unfortunately, in times of essentially desperation and just needing boots on the ground, hired some of the wrong people. And I saw firsthand how destructive that can be to the culture. And ultimately, one bad apple, led to 5 or 6 people leaving the company or being asked to leave the company. And it was a huge turnover event for us. And from that moment forward, and that deepest, darkest moment of pain, I remember crying in my car. What did I do to deserve this bad treatment from these people? It was a really low moment, and I, from that day forward, was like, I am going to hire people that have a great sense of humor, that have a great personality, and that have kindness first. So I think kindness is another core value of ours beyond fun. Treating people with kindness. And because our business is built so much on partnerships and relationships with our vendors and our clients and everyone else, when you can find ways to do something that's mutually beneficial or do favors for other people, like nobody has ever asked me for a favor that I did not want to say yes to. So we're yes people, and we want to be kind to everyone, and we want to have a good time while we do it. And I think hopefully that's why I've got some great reviews on Glassdoor, is because now we take it really seriously, everybody that we bring into our family. And we call it the no a-hole rule.
I have that one. I have that one plastered everywhere in sight in my office. But, you remind me of the old Walt Disney adage, which is, hire slow, fire fast is a great, it says a lot in 4 words, and there are another 4 words, or 5, I guess, that Walt Disney has taught so many people to abide by, which is hire the attitude and train the skill. If you've got the right people in chairs, you can teach them anything, but you can never get that attitude taught. It has to come with whoever they are, and then you can build on that. You can inspire more greatness from people whose attitude invites that. So you're right. You're putting yourself around some wonderful people. And when we come back from our half break, we're going to talk more about not just the Tory Burch Award, but the Next Gen program, and another great gentleman in franchising who has had such a bright light and impact in your life. And I'm talking, of course, about David McKinnon. And we'll get into that right after we tell you that you're listening to Franchise Today. I'm Stan Friedman along with Paul Segreto, and we're talking today with a bundle of energy, Jennifer Beall Saxton, founder and CEO of Tot Squad. Franchise Today is brought to you by the Franchise Foundry, where they've been bringing emerging brands to market for more than 30 years. The Foundry fosters healthy, sustainable growth for their clients, the kind that only comes from experience. The Franchise Foundry provides both coaching and consulting, a hybrid approach. This delivers more effective solutions for both the franchisor's corporate team as well as for their franchisees. The Franchise Foundry team is rich in practical, hands-on experience and expertise with general business management, operational and change management, digital marketing, and, of course, franchise recruitment and development. Plus, the Foundry team can also assist you with creating roadmaps for potential mergers and acquisitions and provide you with all the guidance you need to navigate them. Learn more about Paul Segreto and the Franchise Foundry, along with their expanding list of clients, at www.franchisefoundry.com. Franchise Today is also brought to you by FRM Solutions, offering best-in-class CRM and document management software designed specifically for franchising. FRM empowers real-time business intelligence, communication, and collaboration between all members of the franchisor's team and prospective as well as existing franchisees. This enables you to simply and seamlessly track, access, and manage all messages to and from prospects and existing franchisees, including texts. Legal and compliance is simplified too with FRM's document management, and even site visits can be digitally facilitated and scored using FRM. Make today the day you give FRM a look and assure that all of your candidate and franchisee correspondence, including texts, are being permanently tracked and stored in candidate and franchisee records. FRM even provides state-of-the-art digital experiences for your prospects, replacing old-style virtual brochures. No long-term contracts, multiple upgrades each year at no additional cost. No excuses, just solutions on the web at frmsolutions.com. So, Jen, did I pronounce it right? Jennifer Bell Saxton. We are so proud to have you as our guest today and learn more about Tot Squad, not just the brand but the franchise. And I kind of teased it a little bit before the break talking about David McKinnon. Why don't you tell us more about how that relationship manifests?
Absolutely. So when I first started thinking about franchising my business, I was taking a class at Northwestern taught by Burton Cohen, who is the chief franchising officer at McDonald's under Ray Kroc. And unfortunately, I'm really sad to share that Professor Cohen passed away about 2 months ago. He was a former member of the Dwyer Group and a true leader in the franchise industry. He is dearly missed, but he was kind of a curmudgeon. For anybody who knew him, he was realistic about franchising and all the pros and the cons of this industry. And he told me that my concept was imminently franchisable, which I liked. So I started paying attention to franchising from day one and thinking about creating ops manuals and everything, and eventually was connected with Marianne O'Connell, who's a franchise consultant in Orange County with her business FranWise. And she has been an amazing mentor to me through the whole journey since before we even started with doing anything. We didn't even have an FDD yet. And she told me about this new competition that the International Franchise Association was launching called the Next Gen competition for millennials in franchising. So it was 2014 at that point in time. I applied for the competition, and at the 2015 conference was awarded one of the grand prizes for millennials in franchising, which was just an amazing experience. And it's really funny because when I first started writing my business plan to raise money in 2014, like March 2014, I'm writing this business plan, and you have to have an exit strategy slide. If anybody's going to give you outside capital, they want to know how they're going to get it back. And I said, well, maybe we could sell to one of these big box baby companies, or maybe we could sell to a franchise conglomerate or private equity, somebody like Service Brands International. And I wrote that on my slide in March 2014. Fast forward to March 2015, and I'm in the Next Gen Winners Room, and they have all these amazing industry leaders in there mentoring us. And I look across the table, and I see a name tag that says David McKinnon, founder, Service Brands International. And I think I literally fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe I was sitting across the table from this guy. So poor David, I just hunted him down. And I was like, I got to have coffee with you later and talk more because I need your advice. And we just formed such a fast friendship. And he ended up investing in Tot Squad. I think I was his first early-stage franchise investment. He's done a couple more since then. But we spend a lot of time on the phone and in person with David doing strategic planning and really thinking about how to grow our company. And his Rolodex is maybe one of the most valuable things that he brings to the table because having built such a large company, he knows every vendor, supplier, advisor that I could possibly need as we scale Tot Squad. So I've been truly blessed to have him as part of our team.
Tell us a bit about, coming out of Next Gen. What were the next steps, no pun intended, the next steps coming out of Next Gen for Tot Squad, and what were the big strides that you made coming out of the Next Gen program?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to report that almost exactly a year, March 2016, we sold our first franchise. So, it took a while to get the FDD and the audit and all of the legal structure in place and make sure we had ops manuals and all that jazz. So 1 year later, I sold my first franchise. She opened last summer in Washington, D.C., and we have learned so much from this experience opening our first franchise. And it's been just truly phenomenal to have the support of the Next Gen community, not only Tony Valley from College Pro, who has been so generous with his time to kind of create workshops and webinars for all of the winners to learn more about the nuances of branding and scaling and building the team. And just the peer network, right? There's a bunch of us that are kind of all in this together, and it's great that we now support each other up.
Stan, we still have you. I heard some. I think we might have lost Stan.
Yep,
I'm
here.
Okay.
I wasn't certain if the clicking was on my end or yours. I was just trying to examine the phone to see if I was still here. I'm still with you, Paul.
Okay, sounds good. Jennifer, we've had a bunch of the people from the Next Gen programs on the air with us. Really some great stories. John Evans, Carmelo Marsala, and others. What is it like as far as still networking with those people? What type of ideas are you sharing? What type of things are you talking about with people that came out of that program, which I'm sure down the road you're going to have somewhat similar conversations, but obviously maybe not as franchise-centric with the individuals coming out of the Tory Burch program. So what is it that you talk about? Young entrepreneurs, new into franchising, what are some of the things that are discussed?
Yeah, I think that the key thing that we talk a lot about is millennials in franchising. So I think I mentioned I'm the oldest year of millennials. I'm the very top. And I think that franchising in general is not sexy. It's not, a high-tech startup, which is what it seems like most millennials think is the dream career path. And that's like a real branding problem for the franchise industry. And I think that a lot of big brands are trying to crack it, right? How are they going to recruit millennials to come in as the next generation of franchise owners? And I really applaud what Aziz Hashim is doing through the IFA and now Shelley in terms of trying to get more franchising curriculum into the colleges. So that millennials are learning about franchising as a type of entrepreneurship and a way that they can be their own boss and have their own company. Because I just don't think that people are exploring it. And I think we just talk a lot about that. How do we convince our peers that franchising is a sexy, cool career opportunity that's really rewarding? And that's a big challenge, and I don't know that we've cracked that nut yet, but we're making strides.
So we already know that bringing an attitude and a positive personality into the business is one of the things that are most critical for you bringing employees on board. I'm assuming the same would be true with franchisees. What other attributes are you looking for? If you were rubbing the genie out of the lamp and profiling the perfect franchisee for your business model, tell us who that would be.
Well, I had the chance to go out to Waco in March this year and have dinner with Dina Dwyer-Owens and Mary Kennedy Thompson, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the Dwyer Group. And it was so great that they were able to offer me a tour of their campus and everything and just get that kind of one-on-one mentoring time with them. And one of the things that really came out of that conversation was the need for franchisees to be hunters. Because I had potentially been overly focused on selling the national accounts and saying, hey, if you're coming in as a Tot Squad franchisee, you can work with this baby brand and this stroller company and Uber and this company, and just really talking a lot about the business we would be bringing to them. But the real thing that we need in franchisees is salespeople who are going to really go deep in their local community and find the local, boutiques and preschools and parks and places where moms are spending time. And so I thought that was a key insight coming out of that meeting with them. So my ideal franchisee is probably a mom who's got 5- and 7-year-old kids. And she took some time out of the workforce after a career in sales and marketing, probably more sales than marketing. And now is looking to re-enter the workforce. And perhaps she's looking for a flexible full-time career opportunity. So she doesn't mind working full-time, but she just wants to be able to go to school pickup at 3 o'clock every day. And something that's family-friendly. So if the kid calls in sick or can't go to school for the day, she can bring them to work with her. And part of that stems from when I was a kid, my family owned a little miniature train in Zilker Park in Austin. And my dad would manage the engineers, and my mom worked the souvenir booth, and my sister and I would collect the tickets from people as they got on the train. And that was just such a amazing experience to go to work with your family and feel like you're all doing something together. And I love that idea for our franchisees to be able to have their own business and create their own schedule with that flexibility, but still, hunt for the local business because they know their local, area so well. Where do the moms hang out? So that's kind of my ideal target profile.
What do you envision the growth into particular markets, sections of the country? What is your growth strategy for Tot Squad, let's say, over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think that I intentionally ignored a little bit of conventional franchise advice, which everybody kept telling me you need to grow in concentric circles. So if you're in LA, you want to go to San Francisco, Vegas, and Phoenix next, and then grow from there. So you aren't, going back and forth across the country. And here I am in LA, New York, and DC, and my next target markets are Miami, Dallas, Chicago, and San Francisco. And so I believe that advice applies to somebody who's opening a business in a competitive space. So if you're opening another yogurt chain or a barber shop or a dry cleaning company where you've got to build a brand in the local community and really distinguish yourself, I think that strategy makes sense. But for me as a first mover with no competition, I really need to claim the key markets where the most luxury strollers are sold, which are the markets that I just named. So I think that those are our top priorities, is to get into some of those cities. And potentially with these new opportunities with Uber and the rental car company, Orlando is very high on that list because of the number of families traveling there for Disney. So those are kind of the immediate next steps. But I think 5 years from now, I would love to see Tot Squad with in-store service centers at 100 different baby stores across the country, and potentially, running a car seat program at 60 major airports for several rental car brands.
Well, I love the fact that, here you talk about, David McKinnon. Well, we mentioned Dina Dwyer-Owens, which we can never mention enough, Mary Kennedy Thompson, the infinite franchise wisdom that is bestowed upon you from these individuals, and you go in a different direction. And I admire that because it is not a one-size-fits-all. I mean, sure, there are some, common best practices. There are some good basic principles. But, all of them that are entrepreneurs in franchising and otherwise have taken the best practices. They followed them to an extent, but it's being a trailblazer, going into a different direction. And I'm going to read a quote right from the Tory Burch Foundation site, and it's in your bio and why you should be the winner of that competition. And you said, women entrepreneurs are game changers. We dream big, work hard, and get stuff done. And I think you're spot on that in all that you're saying, and admire you for the fact of trailblazing where others might not seem to have recommended going in that direction.
Thank you so much.
So coming up, how do people learn more about, you, about Tot Squad, about the different opportunities? I mean, if we do a Google search of Jennifer Beall Saxton and Tot Squad, I mean, we see all kinds of press. We see all kinds of things coming up. So certainly they could just do a basic Google search. Are you going to be in any type of franchise shows or consumer shows where people could look you up and learn a little bit more about the opportunity?
Absolutely. We, from a consumer perspective, we do a lot of consumer shows. In fact, in the next week, we are doing the New York Family Baby Show in New York City, and also the Big City Moms Show. And throughout the year, you'll see us at MommyCon events. And we partner with a lot of different mommies.
She's a friend of the show. We had Exa on the show. I thought she was great.
Well, I personally recommended EXA for the Next Gen program, so I was thrilled that she was chosen as one of this year's winners. So she is a rock star, and we have partnered for several years and really support each other. So, yeah, so you can find us at all the consumer shows, and from a franchise perspective, I will be at the IFA show next spring. And potentially I like to go to the Emerging Franchise Conference as well every year if I can.
That's awesome. You know, Paul, I'm looking just on Jennifer's LinkedIn profile. I mean, we're talking about a woman who is used to winning awards. 2010 winner of the Kellogg Cup, 2013 Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. Anybody who meets you at any of these expos is going to do a very wise thing if they can just latch on to you long enough to let a little bit of that intellectual capital that you are so full of and happy to share just bleed off to them. I mean, I'm so happy to have had the pleasure and privilege today of getting to know a little bit more about you.
Thank you guys so much. It's been really fun chatting with you, and thank you so much for the opportunity to come on the show.
Thank you, Jennifer. And, you know, Stan, we mentioned the Next Gen program a few times, and we'd be remiss in not also giving a shout-out to Jennifer Cushell, just a dear friend of us both. And hi, Jennifer. I know you'll be listening to this at some point or another. That's for sure.
So we found a common bridge in engineers, and now we have a common denominator in Jennifers.
Absolutely.
She brings a great energy to the program, and I think we should mention that the applications for next year are now open.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. Well, that's great. Well, Jennifer, again, thanks for being our guest today. We appreciate the time you took out of your busy schedule, and also I'm assuming you're calling in from California, so it's earlier in the day there than for Stan and I. Thank you again.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have a great day.
And you the same.
So, Stan, next week we've got Dina Dwyer-Owens. Jennifer mentioned her. We've mentioned her. I'm really anxious to dive into her book, Values, which I've personally been giving to all Foundry clients. I think it's that impactful of a book.
Well, in all the years that I've known Dina, the one thing I've learned being around her is that the stuff that she's about is the stuff that you can't make up, and it's the stuff that comes from the heart. It comes from the heart. I think it's in her DNA, but there is so much anyone can learn from Dina, and I don't think an hour is enough time for our guest next week, Paul. But we'll have to make it a lightning round with questions.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, this will be her third or fourth time on the show. She's a great supporter of the show, and I really admire her. But it's funny, you mentioned DNA, and I looked down at my card about upcoming guests, and DNA is right in the middle of the name Dina, along with the word I.
Wow.
So I think that's a little bit of a signal there. Also, I love segues. And I was trying to segue into Jennifer mentioning Dina because I had known the relationship, and I decided to ask that question about culture. And she went right into it with Dina, with values and stuff like that. So another one on the segue mark for Mr. Segreto here.
So we got a pretty busy summer coming up. I think July, it might be a bit of a respite, but the next couple of weeks are certainly chock full of events. We've got the IFE just a couple weeks out on June 15 through 17, and from there, 2 weeks later, is the IFA Summer Board meeting out in wine country. And then I think we get a little bit of a break in the month of July from the franchising calendar. But August, Dog Days of Summer, we've got two big events on the calendar in August. Paul, the first is the Franchise Capital Exchange, speaking of Marianne O'Connell, who Jennifer talked about earlier in the program, Wednesday through Friday, August 22nd through 24th. in Chicago, the Franchise Capital Exchange is going to be hosted, and then later, about a week or 10 days later, is the 5th annual Faegre Baker Daniels Franchise Summit, which this year, I don't know what Brian Snow was thinking about when he scheduled this, but it's Wednesday and Thursday, August 30th and 31st, leading into the Labor Day weekend. So who can believe that the summer's going to be over as quickly as it gets here? But it's, just around the corner. And those are two do not miss events, actually, that are back-to-back: Franchise Capital Exchange and the Faegre Franchise Summit, both in August.
Yeah, I hope this year I get an opportunity to go to my first Faegre event. Brian's invited me the last few years, and I've been unable to attend, but maybe this will be the year.
Well, it's worth it. I mean, I can tell you, as somebody who's attended and sponsored and actually participated back in the days when I was still a franchise, or I've participated in events that Brian has hosted with Bill Killian, and they go deep and they are full of content, but there's also an abundance of time for networking, and nobody does that better than Schnell.
I agree. Well, next week we have Dina Dwyer-Owens. I think that's the 6th time we've said that. I am looking forward to that, and certainly appreciate all the work that our PR friends have done on our behalf. Monica Fide from BizCom, the great folks at Fishman PR, and certainly the great folks at All Points as well. So until next week.
Before you do that, Paul, it was great seeing Brad Fishman here last night. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the show. The Women's Franchising Network here in Atlanta had an event last evening, and Mr. Brad Fishman was the keynote, so it was great seeing Brad here in Atlanta last night. I almost let that get by me, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, well, we've got Brad, and Lane Fisher will be on with us at some point in June or July, probably July, talking about the upcoming Springboard. Emerging Brand Springboard event in September. I just don't know if we've got enough time for the 4 of us to be speaking. That will be a challenge. All right.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Yeah. Until next week, my name is Paul Segreto, wishing you the best, the very best in this great, great thing we call franchising. And Franchise Today is out.
Franchise pros, Stan the Man, Paul Segreto, Badlands, baby. Franchising today, sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchise today, sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchise today, franchise today, franchising today, yeah.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. At American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.